Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Tradesmen Talks. We've got me and Steven, and we have a special guest. We want to welcome the infamous Callie Kerbo with Honeycomb Brand and Strategy here to teach you
Welcome.
how to make an amazing brand and share some genius with us. How are you today, Callie?
I am doing great. How are you guys?
Fantastic.
We always have good
Appreciate you joining us.
Yeah.
I am so happy to be here. Really excited to chat today.
So,
Yeah, go ahead, Wilson.
well, I'm super excited because Steven, we always end up talking about mindset, and if we're not talking about mindset, we're talking about SOPs. And when it comes to some of the more creative stuff with people's businesses, if you're not familiar with it, they get nervous and they push it off. And, when you and I, Callie, first connected, you had done just an incredible job of simplifying some of the stuff in a way that I thought our audience is going to really, really vibe with and do really well with. So I'm really excited for us to be able to add some really cool value that's outside of our normal wheelhouse. I'm really excited about it.
Sure. Yeah. Marketing is a whole world that marketing and branding is a whole world that you could deep dive into. And so our goal is always to make things a little more simple for people, a little more straightforward, tangible things that you can put into action rather than feeling like you're so overwhelmed you don't want to do anything or don't want to take action.
For sure. And, Callie, we kind of look at you as the branding expert. And when it comes to branding, it could be very much a foreign topic with home service providers, tradespeople, contractors. A lot of us have a lot of pride around our reputation, and we get business off of word of mouth and reputation, but we don't necessarily have a system or a process for building our brand. And I would love to kind of start with defining what a brand actually is for those who don't quite understand that word.
You mean it's not your last name?
And it's not your reputation? Yeah. Shockingly, a brand is not a logo, which is what we so often want to say is our brand is our logo. That's what people see whenever they think about us. It's the thing that they're considering whenever they're shopping around. It's the visual elements of our business. And that is an element of your brand. But the strongest pieces of your brand are the things that you say, the way that you operate, the differentiators and the way that you do things. And the product itself can be your brand. If you have a specific, if we're talking like in the world of cabinets, I'm going to venture a guess here, but like if you source from particular makers and that is really significant for you, it could also be significant for your clientele, and that is part of your brand. So it's really all the things that we say, all the things that we do, and combined together, along with the perception of the outside world, that's what your brand ends up becoming. And so when people say that's so on brand for you, it's because it's the combination of things that you've done, that you've said, and their perception that really defines what that is. So people can be brands, businesses can be brands. And what we want to do whenever we start to think about branding is to think about the way that we want people to talk about us, because we do have a large a large part to play in the way that unfolds. So branding is not this hands-off thing. It could be, but then you may end up with a brand you don't want.
Right.
Or alternatively, the way that we like to think about it, it's something that you're an active participant in and actively shape into the business that you want to build and into the clients you want to attract. And for a lot of our clients that we work with at Honeycomb, that's really important to them. They really care that the people that they're working with are the type of people they want to work with. They want to build a business just like I do, with people who are passionate about the work that they do. And that's where branding is really critical, because that can shape exactly who comes to your business and who shops with you.
And that's usually valuable, because if you do put a lot of concentration and energy into your brand and create that alignment with your ideal market, those people within that market will pay more for you. Absolutely. Because you align with their brand. You might be a plumber, but if you're a plumber that has a brand around luxury homes,
Yeah.
those homeowners that own luxury homes are going to want to work with the luxury plumber rather than a plumber that focuses on apartment buildings. You know, so building that brand and your messaging and everything aligning with your market, I think it makes a ton of sense.
It does. And you're completely right. Whenever you position yourself a certain way and you've worked with a certain clientele, that does end up becoming what you attract. And if that's what you're putting out into the world, that's likely what you're going to be getting back. And I don't discount word of mouth, but I will say that there's a lot of weight to be put into the thought, into the positioning and the words that you're saying and the way in which you pitch your services. Even so much as changing language can open you up to an entirely new clientele just because you change the name of the service that you offer. It could be something that people think is super general, that is underpriced all the time. You change the name, it stays the same service, and all of a sudden you can raise your rates 50%, 75% because of the way that you've positioned it. And that also falls under the realm of branding. You know, we want to look at all the aspects of what could fall under our brand and really just align everything together.
Awesome. Do you have any thoughts on why you think some business owners tend to neglect their branding?
Oh, it's 100% overwhelmed and just feeling like they're not good enough. You know, feeling like I don't have the skills. I'm not a creative. I hear this all the time. I'm not a creative person. And it's like, well, I didn't just wake up one day and become a creative person. I did things that ended up lending itself well to my creativity. And maybe I'm a little more creative than the average person. I don't think anyone is uncreative. I think a lot of times what we fail to do is think and give ourselves space to think and dream and consider what we want out of our businesses. My partner and I have a phrase that we spend about 90% of our time dreaming and about 10% of our time planning and doing. Because for us, we find, and this, we apply this to business as well, we find that if we spend 90% of our time thinking through a situation, thinking about the business, that 10%, that's really all you need. You don't need 20, 30% of the time to plan and do, because it's so efficient by the time that you get to the planning and doing. You've thought through all the scenarios, you've thought through everything that you want to say. You just have to put it into action. So I do think a large reason that people back away is overwhelm. And then they feel like they're not techie enough. Like, oh, I don't have the tech skills to be able to execute the type of branding that a lot of businesses do. I don't know how to do that thing. And what I would offer is that, one, it's a Google search away. We have an incredible toolkit. It's called Google, and it is very handy. And YouTube is like even more handy than Google is, because you really can watch someone do it in real time. So use the two free tools that you have, and then find products that are made for people like you who don't want to mess with tech. There are so many companies out there that are dedicated to making easy solutions. And so it creates a very low barrier to entry. You don't have to be techie anymore. You don't have to know how to code. You know, it's very easy to build a business online now and to brand it well. You just have to know the tools to use. And again, going back to the 90% of your time thinking, spend 90% of your time Googling and watching YouTube videos and learning, so that 10% of the time doing is done well, and you don't have to do it over again. You don't have to redo later down the road because you did it incorrectly the first time.
Yeah, that's a great point when you bring up the idea of creating space to think. And specifically with contractors, a lot of them are very busy. And, you know, not only with their work life, but with their personal life. And it could be very hard to find that quiet space to really think about some of the things that they want to do with their business. And so that's where it can become very valuable working with someone like you and Honeycomb, where you have the structure to be very efficient with their time. So rather than them trying to take on a commitment of an unknown amount of time until they just, become inspired enough to figure out what they want, they could really become effective with their time, reach out to Honeycomb, and you guys will create a game plan together that I think you have something called Build a Brand in a Week. So that's something that could be a very effective use of time. But having a safe space to at least figure out what you want and using Google, I think, is a great starting point. That way, when they do meet with someone like you, that time is even more effective because they have some idea. And just by using Google and searching for, and if, for example, let's say you're a plumber, top plumbing companies in Orange County or wherever you are, take a look at those websites, look at their color schemes, look at their branding and all of the components to a brand. And maybe they can bring some of those ideas to a meeting with someone like yourself. And that could really get the ball rolling. Absolutely.
And it really isn't about copying. I hear this a lot from people. They're like, oh, I feel like I'm just going to copy this person who's in my area. This is usually for hyper local companies when you're just working with people in your area. It's not about copying. It's about understanding why someone would choose another person over your business. And this kind of ties into the number one piece of advice that I have for people. And it's to make it easy. Truly, at the end of the day, if you do nothing else in your business, make it easy for people. The reason they're choosing someone else over you is probably because you haven't made it easy enough to work with you. And that comes down to not only branding, but positioning. What tools have you put into place to make it really easy to work with you? You could be the best service person in your area. You could know it too. You could be very self-aware and know, I have worked with this other person before. I know that they are not top notch. My clients definitely get better service, but they're getting booked more than you. And you're sitting there scratching your head wondering why, but it's because they literally have a little button on their website that says book now. And it takes them to a page where that person can just book them online, no phone required. It's very easy. And that's why they chose them. They didn't think about it longer than to think, oh, am I going to get better service with this other person? No, it was midnight and they needed somebody tomorrow. So they booked this other person because they didn't have to pick up a phone. So it's considerations like that, where it's how can I just make this easier for people to work with me? And then you're then attracting the kind of clients that you want and growing your business in turn.
Yeah. So, I love that. I'm really curious because, one of the things I'm sitting here thinking about, I'm holding an Expo marker in my hand that I know I paid 3 times more for than the off brand at Walmart. And I did it anyways, right? So it's you see big companies doing this all the time, but sometimes I think, especially in small contracting businesses, we don't necessarily think that what big companies are doing is going to work for us. Or if we do it, it's going to be all of this extra stuff. So if you had to pick one place for a simpleton like me to start, where would I start?
Yeah. So
let's
start with 3 places that you can go, and they're going to actually compound on each other. Okay. So the first thing that you're going to do is make it easy for people to find you. You need to make it super simple for people to be able to find you, easily understand what you're about before they move to the next step. So for a lot of people, whenever they're looking at service-based businesses, specifically the types of businesses that we're talking about a Google search. So they're finding you via Google. So if you don't have a Google My Business profile, that would be the first step. Get a free Google My Business profile so that you show up on the map. So when I'm searching for someone, let's say I need a handyman in Nashville to come hang a light or something. I need somebody to come hang something in my house. I just need a really quick job done. I need a handyman. I'm Googling handyman Nashville. If you don't have a Google My Business profile, chances are I'm not going to find you. So first step, have a Google My Business profile. If you want to amp that up a step and get even more clients, you want to have a website. And this does not have to be a fancy website. I'm going to give you the core components. They're very simple. It can be a 1-pager. All you need is 1 page to convince me to buy from you. And I'm going to tell you how to do that. So the first thing you need is who you are. I need a name, going to need a basic bio. In this particular case, we're probably going to want some background on why we should trust you. How many years have you been working? Good things to include are certifications if that's relevant to your particular field. Do you have, specific types of clients you like to work with? We talked about luxury earlier. You might want to note that in your bio. And then right below that, you should tell them the specific areas that you service. I cannot tell you how many websites I go on, and I am searching and searching and searching. And because I'm a persistent person, I keep searching to try to find where these people are from. And I just cannot for the life of me figure out what service areas they offer, like zip codes or cities or something. Just tell me where you're located so that I don't call and you tell me, sadly, I'm out of your service zone. So that should be in the very first part of the website. It can be the header. It can be right below the header. That's what we want. The first thing for people to see: who we are, what we do, why you should trust us. Okay. The next thing you probably want, if you have something that is visual, so this could be cabinets, it could be painting, it could be finish work, house building, whatever you're doing that requires a photo. I want to see some photos of your work. These could be iPhone photos. They do not have to be fancy photos. They should be clearly lit so I can tell what I'm looking at, but we want some photos on there. And then we want some policies. Like, do you have specific policies on minimums or minimum hours that you work? Are there things that I need to know that would potentially prevent me from booking with you if I didn't know those things? So if I call and you tell me this piece of information and I immediately say no, you might consider those types of things for the website, because it gates the people who are reaching out to you. We really want to be conscious of your time. I only would want people reaching out to you who feel like they're a good fit. Policies clearly displayed on the website help people determine if they're the right fit for you, if they're the right type of client to be able to work with you. This specifically goes for like minimums in wages. So like if you have, let's say, a $3,000 minimum, that's something we want on the website, even if it freaks you out to put your prices on there, because you want to weed out people who are not going to meet the minimum. You don't want to hop on a call and feel like you have to discount someone just because they're sort of whining about your minimum. If that's your policy, that's your policy. It should be on your website. And then you need a link to book you, or at least reach out. Something easy, something that does not require picking up a phone. It can be a contact form, but I really like booking forms. And that's the next thing that we will get into, is easy ways to book you. But if you're going to start out, that's what I would include on my website.
I got itchy fingers. I'm like, I got some changes I got to go. I like the minimum thing a lot, because, once we've reached a certain point in business, we want to protect our time as a business owner, right? In the very beginning, the mindset is like, anything that comes in the door is great. But now we're like, anything that comes in the door that meets my minimum, that also seems like somebody I want to work with, that we can put on our website, who's not going to be a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
And we want those qualifications. I really like that. That's we're gonna make some shifts.
Yeah, so I will give you a personal example. For many years in my business, I did not put my prices on my website because I was told no agency should put their prices on their website. And I decided that that was a terrible idea, because I would get on the phone with people and I would say my prices and they would virtually hang their jaw open. And I was just tired of having that conversation. It's a waste of my time. It's a waste of their time. I have people I can refer them to if they don't fit, but I didn't want to be the person who's just a liaison for all these other agencies. Right. Happy to refer them, but that's not my full-time job. My full-time job is to build my own business. And so I put our prices on our website, and I will say we get less inquiries, but the people who do reach out, highly qualified, definitely want to work with us. Way less time to convince them to work with us, because by the time they're on our website, they're bought in. They're usually ready to book, and the price does not deter them. So if that's some encouragement, if you have a luxury product, if you are working with clients 5-figure deals, you know, $20,000, $30,000, or even a couple $1,000s. Don't be afraid to put those minimums. Don't be afraid to display those prices, because again, coming down to branding, that sets you in a different category than your competitors. If you're seeing a lot of people go to this person, maybe they're undercutting their prices or just not saying their prices or doing something to discount their prices, it doesn't mean that the work is going to be up to par with those prices. So by displaying not only your work, but then your prices below that, we want work to come. We want them to be really impressed with us. And then we want to display our prices. You can really gate the type of people that come into your business and that work with you. And what I typically find is the higher the price point, the less painful the client experience. And that just tends to be true across a lot of industries. So if you've been sort of on the fence about raising your prices or been on the fence about whether or not you should display those, I would really encourage you, as someone who does this every single day, do it. Don't be afraid to do it, and don't really look back, because what you've got to do is grin and bear it and go through the like anxious, nervous, I've got to put, hit publish moment. Once you get there, you're going to forget about it and you're going to have better aligned clients. So everybody wins.
I like that. Yeah. It's I think it can be fearful, especially. So some contractors feel that they're in a very competitive landscape.
Mm-hmm.
Statistically is not true. There's actually a shortage of contractors, so it's not as competitive as people think it is. In fact, part of the reason why I started the Austin location with my partner is as we were helping all these people, I was like, well, dude, it's actually wild how much business is coming into this right now and how little competition there is in all of these markets. Like, okay, let's do this. And so I think there's a fear because they have this idea in their head that's so competitive that if they disqualify themselves early, if they don't have a chance to talk to that person, that they're really not going to be able to grow their business. And that leaves hard to rewire. And I don't know, 20 years ago, it may have been super competitive, but I know right now it's.
Well, what I will tell you is that the one way to outcompete, regardless of how many people are in your particular geographic region, because we are talking about pretty hyper local businesses. Not a lot of people are going far outside of their geographic zone to find a contractor or even someone who does cabinets. Like, they're not bringing that person in from another state. So branding really is where you differentiate yourself. I mean, a good brand can just completely set you apart to the point where it does not matter how many people are in your city. It would not matter how many contractors are in your city. If you have such a strong brand that is really well aligned, they're not even going to look at anyone else because they feel so strongly about who you are. And a great example of this is one of our clients who is a title company. They are on the younger side. They're younger, by probably a number of years than people who own title companies. And the title companies in their geographic region are a dime a dozen. And they are super successful. Why? Because they have a super strong brand. We went completely the opposite direction of what every other title company is doing. The messaging is different. It's for their customer. They were so clear about the type of people they wanted to work with. And we worked with them to hone in on that messaging, got them a super slick logo that is just not anything you're seeing anywhere else. In fact, when we see it on sponsorship signs, it's pretty comical to see their logo compared to others. And why are they so successful? It's not just because of the brand. Like, you do have to attribute their really hard work. They were really strategic about entering their market, but the brand is what's carrying them over that initial threshold. It's why they made such a splash and why so many people were talking about them whenever they launched, because no one could believe that they were audacious enough to do that. And you can do that regardless of the industry. I mean, the title industry is so saturated. Real estate is so saturated. Saturation really has nothing to do with it whenever you really spend time to get clear on who you want to work with and what you want people to say about you, because that strong brand can carry you way further than word of mouth ever will. I mean, at some point you have to trust that like you're just going to be kind of rolling with it, and that word of mouth and referrals and reviews and things like that are going to work their magic. But getting started, getting off the ground, you really are a dime a dozen. And the way that you stand out is the way that you talk about what you do, the way that you show what you do, and the way that you brand what you do.
Absolutely. And when it comes to home service businesses or contractors, there is so many. I would even go as far as to say most contractors are essentially not branded at all. They work off of, word of mouth, but they don't have a logo. They don't have a website. If they do start hiring people, all of their guys are wearing, different just t-shirts, scrap t-shirts. Especially you see this a lot with painting companies. They're all wearing Sherwin-Williams t-shirts when they're working on these job sites, rather than representing their own company. They're marketing for someone else's. Yeah. And it's a good example of a brand is Sherwin-Williams, where you have a bunch of other businesses not only buying your product, but they're doing free advertising for you, because these companies are so negligent to building their own brand that they're just going to wear whatever t-shirt is given to them. And if you give your guys a branded t-shirt that makes it easy for prospective customers to know who you are, how to contact you, maybe you have a QR code on the back of your guys' t-shirt, so they don't even have to say anything to your guys while they're working. You can just hold your phone up to them and it'll take you right to the website, or at the very least have your business phone number on your team's shirts. Or a good example of a branded company that has just taken off, and I live in Orlando. There's a bunch of roofing companies, right? Well, this company decided to really double down on the color neon green. And they made all of their branding material neon green. Their buildings neon green. All their signs are neon green. All of their trucks literally were just spray painted neon green. And as you can imagine, they're very noticeable. And so when they first started in Orlando, it was very noticeable. You saw these spray painted neon trucks. Well, it's only been, I would say, 2 years. This was right before the pandemic. It was a couple years down the road. Now they're all driving brand new F-250 dualies. They literally just built a new building off the side of the road. Like, they are one of the top branded companies, and everything is just top of the line. And they really started with boots on the ground, and started with, as much as they could start off with, but their company has blown up because of that branding. And when it comes with roofing companies, just distinguishing yourself visually was enough to get enough attention, to get the ball rolling enough to where now they're banking. And it's just one of those examples with roofing companies or contracting businesses. There's so much low-hanging fruit, and being able to just build momentum with some branding can create success very quickly. That's what I did with my cabinet business, Elite Cabinet Coatings. I didn't have a reputation at the beginning, but what I did start with was marketing and branding, where we built a really nice website. We built marketing funnels. We made ourselves look like a business that's been around for a very long time. And when we did show up, we had embroidered shirts. We had, vinyl signs on our work trucks. And we built momentum very quickly and distinguished ourselves from other painting companies, and really created the brand around cabinet painting. And it started with marketing and branding.
Yeah. And I mean, one great example that goes along with the Sherwin-Williams one is, why does Lowe's sell 5-gallon buckets? Like, think about it for just a hot minute. Like, why in the world would Lowe's want to sell branded 5-gallon buckets? They can probably get them way cheaper. I mean, they're probably already getting them cheap, but they could probably get them even cheaper, non-branded. But they want you to buy that bucket because they know you need it. And then you set that bucket down, and Lowe's has a free billboard. In fact, you paid for the billboard. Like, you paid for that. Right. And you are giving them that branding. And one of the biggest things for businesses is that if you're not doing the branding, you are letting someone else do it for you. So you are giving away all of your power by not controlling that yourself. And it can be very cheap. I will tell you, one of the easiest logo makers to use is either Canva, which you can create a free account. I would just caution you that a lot of people are using Canva these days, so you could look like somebody else. You've been warned. Make it a little bit different than a normal person. Or Squarespace has a logo maker. Now, they don't advertise this, but you can search Squarespace logo maker. You choose a little icon, choose a font. It's Squarespace, so everything is like beautiful and modern. And then you can download it. Free logo, instant logo. Now, I would tell you that you need to also download the icon separately and have it on your social media and have it other places. But let's just start with a logo, get you set up with a logo. Squarespace, free logo maker, Canva, great places to start.
And then Fiverr for about 15.
And you can also go to Fiverr, like even better, because it's probably not going to look like anyone else's. But before you feel like you have to work with someone like me, which is not free or
not $5,
not $5, try something that's free or next to free and establish yourself. You can always rebrand later down the road. That is always an option on the table. But what you want to do is you want to be so in your face, like this roofing company in Orlando, great example. They are just in your face all the time. You can't escape them. Even if you don't need a roof, you feel like you need a roof because this person is in front of you all the time. You're like, do I need to get a new roof? Like, do I need to call this company? And they're
now their billboard says, yes, we are everywhere.
Yes, and they are, and they know it. And what's great about that is they're owning their branding. Like they want to just remind you, like, we get it. We know that we're annoying, but we're owning it. Yeah. You know, and that's a great continuation of what they've already done. And for them being established 2-3 years down the road, it does sometimes get hard to maintain a brand. So staying relevant is really important. And particularly with businesses that are very visual, like you're going to see the people working on your house. You're going to interact with them on a regular basis. You're going to see them around town. You might pass by their office. Even more reason to look at physical branding elements, which for digital businesses, I usually harp on less, but that's even more reason to set aside in your budget decals, truck wraps, physical packaging. Like, can you give someone like a branded envelope or a branded folder with project materials in it? Can you give them something that they're going to take with them all the time and become a billboard for you? Canvas bags, because reusable bags are becoming all the rage. Can you give them a canvas bag at your first meeting with a folder in it that has all their project materials and a branded pin and a sticker? Like, all this stuff is really affordable. Start with like 50, give it out. And then you've got all of your clients who are walking billboards for you. You've got truck wraps or truck decals. Decals are a great place to start. I really like truck wraps because you can completely customize them. Obviously that starts to eat into the budget, but I would definitely recommend them. So thinking about all of those ways that you can get in front of someone's face. If you are not on Google, if you're not spending money on ads, if you're not investing in SEO, you need to be investing somewhere else. You can't just do one or the other. You've got to either do both and go all in on both, or go all in on one thing. You can go all in on your website and brand initially, and that can be the thing that you choose, or you can go all in on physical marketing. One involves more time and money than the other. I personally would start with a website and start with Google. And one of my recommendations coming up is going to be Pinterest, which may be a scary world for some people, but I think that unlocking that key is really unlocking a key that a lot of other people in your area are probably not doing. And that can be the difference between being booked out and crickets for a lot of businesses.
Especially if you have a visual business. Pinterest is pretty visual as of a platform.
Sure.
And I haven't gotten onto Pinterest myself, but I've heard that they have an advertising platform also.
Yes.
So I'm sure they have some sort of targeting that you could do for your local business.
Yeah. So I'll say two things. There are sort of two avenues that every business needs to explore, and they can choose the way in which they explore them, but you need these two things to really keep the recurring business flowing. You need to make it really easy for people to review and refer you. Whether that is an offboarding email that you manually send to a client that includes your Google My Business link, Facebook, House, Yelp, specific like Thumbtack, if you have a Thumbtack profile, like very specific ones for your industry. I like Google because it helps with your map ratings. Like you can go higher in the map if you have better ratings. So I really focus on Google. You need a way that people can easily review you right after the project is done. I'm talking day that they sign off, that email gets sent out to them. And you can use a service to do this. I like Square for this. Once someone has paid their final invoice, it will automatically, you can set it up to automatically send a review email. They will leave their review. You can then ask them to leave it on Google as well. So you have the review. Google also has the review. But you need a way that people can easily review you. And this sort of ties into another recommendation, which is to really leverage SMS marketing in a way that a lot of businesses are not doing right now. So
that's texting, right?
Yes. So this is very cheap to do. It does not have to be expensive. You can get expensive services. The ones I'm going to recommend are not expensive. I'm going to say Square a lot in the next probably 15 minutes, but Square is one of my very favorite platforms for a lot of things. You can take payments, you can do deposits, you can do invoices and quotes. It's very flexible depending on your business type. You can also do messaging through Square. You can do text messaging where you have one-to-one communication between you and your client that's monitored in a dashboard. And within that messaging, you can automate certain things. As soon as they wrap up with their service, it can automatically send them a text to review you. You can customize that link. It could go straight to Google if you wanted. It could go to Square if you wanted them to leave the review there. But really leveraging a platform where you can message with clients and, say they haven't paid their invoice and it's been 3 days since the invoice was due. You send a little text nudge reminder like, hey, you've got an invoice due. There's no need to have invoices that are out 15, 30, 60 days. You deserve to get paid. Use a tool that can help you do that. That's a no-think kind of thing. You set it up once, it does all the work for you as long as you set the invoices up. So things like that are really great to leverage in terms of automating a lot of the key business tasks. And the reason I like Square is you can automate so many of your business tasks. You can do a website, you can do appointments, you can do messaging. You could do payroll in there. Invoices. You could have an all-in-one tool, which is what Square is trying to become, their all-in-one tool for a small business. And as someone who's used the platform, I'm not recommending anything I haven't used, by the way. I've used all of these things for numerous years. We've been on Square for probably 6 years now. This is the very first tool that I used in my business. And I love it. My accounting team loves it. Our clients love it. They even leave, it's so cute. They'll leave little reviews on invoices, even though I've worked with them for 2 years, they still want to leave a review. Nice. You can do tips. There's just so many features that you could just dip your toes into Square and build and build and build and build and build until you have this really strong branded business. It is just, I would say, one of the best tech companies on the forefront of every new innovation out there.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate all those tools.
Yeah, it's
some golden nuggets on this episode.
I mean, look, I told you to Google earlier. There
Yep.
are some things I don't want you to Google. I'm just going to tell you, like, don't waste your time. Just try them out. The great thing about Square as well is you can try it for free. A lot of tech companies will let you try it for free, but their payment processing, I don't pay a dime for that other than the processing fee, which is tax deductible. So, and in some states, you can charge that to your clients. So I would look into that if you want to take credit cards. Square also takes ACH payments for a much lower fee. But in certain states, you can charge that back to your client. So again, going back to policies, that's another policy type thing. That's another piece of the branding. How do I want to handle this? If I want to take credit cards, how do I want to handle this? And that still is a branding question. People may not think of it as a branding question, but it is a branding question. How do I want to handle that? So that would be my recommendation there. Use Square, try it out, see how you like it. I get nothing from telling you this other than, just the goodness of my heart wants to tell you. But that is one of the platforms that I will swear by all day long.
I think one of the cool things that can happen here, because you have dropped a lot of really incredible knowledge, for anybody that's listening at this point, sometimes it can be overwhelming because you're wearing all these hats. And for some contractors, it's not like they're flush with capital and they've got this idea of, well, if I can't afford to have this branding thing because I'm not making enough money, that I can't do this. And it's like all these can't reasons. But what's really interesting is if you take some of the free advice that she's given and you go implement it, now you can charge 15 to 20% more. And that extra profit can go into getting that CRM that can now keep track of your customers. And that extra profit goes in. And soon enough, you're charging a lot more money. You're providing a much better service. And it creates this win-win. And the only thing that really had to happen was some action.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, whenever I started my business, I did not have all the systems that I have today. Our business is almost fully automated from start to finish. From the time that you inquire to the time that you get onboarded is an almost entirely automated process with some human interaction sprinkled in there. And that's how I like to run my business. I like some human interaction with our clients before they sign with us. But largely, I leave a lot of it in their hands because what I am trying to do is get them to take action. So if they're not willing to go through the steps of our onboarding, they're not going to be successful as a client for us. And if they're not willing to do the very basic systems that I've set up to onboard them and to get them to sign, this is just not going to be a good fit. I'm not going to handhold you through a very easy automated process. If you can't do that, you're just not a good fit for us. And that's just how we roll. And does that mean that some people, we say no to? Yes. But that's kind of the point of business. Like, we're not trying to grow a business that serves everybody. We're trying to grow a business that serves our customers. And if you take any of the pieces of advice, doing a free logo, signing up with Square, like, that really could set you on a trajectory to feeling more confident in your business, more confident in your brand. It really takes that one thing that turns the tide and you start to see the ROI, because we see it all the time with our clients. They're a little hesitant to sign on to a marketing retainer. They're like, I don't know if I'm going to see the return. So we start by saying, well, just send your emails. We'll just send your emails for you and we'll track it all. And you'll be able to see how much money all of your emails make. And when they see that one email gets them like $4 or $5, sometimes like $10,000 in revenue, one email, they're like, okay, like, I can get behind this. Like, I can get behind this email marketing thing. But sometimes it does take just testing it and seeing how it goes. And if it doesn't, I'm not promising you a $10,000 return on one email. It's a very particular situation, but you can see the return quickly by just investing a little bit of your time. You can do it scared. I do a lot of things scared. Like, you don't have to be fully confident that it's going to work. Just pick one thing, try it, 30 days, try a new thing. And I will tell you, in 3 months, if you use that system, you are going to see a difference in your business. It may not be the overnight success that you're looking for, but you are going to start seeing the pieces come together, and you're going to feel more confident along the way so you can take bigger risks. And at the end of the day, that's what branding is. It's about taking bigger risks. And like the company in Orlando, I think this is such a great example. They didn't start with F-250s, right? Like that is not the starting line for them. It was a truck that they could spray paint, really, really easy. You know, we're just going to go neon green. That's a stock color we can find anywhere, right? It's not some fancy Pantone that I have to get custom done. You can move on to that later, but they started with something that was attainable, easy to find, and that they could do right away. And that's what I'm asking you to do, is try something that is easy and attainable. Don't go full Sherwin-Williams. Don't go full Lowe's. We're wanting like an entry-level brand that can get straight to your clients and get you 10% more visibility. Let's go for like 10% more of whatever you're doing in your business. And that's where you should start.
For sure. And when it comes to branding itself, rather than telling yourselves you can't afford that or you can't create the time, I really encourage you listening to ask yourself, how can I afford this? How can I create the time? Because as Wilson pointed out, and all the value that Callie's been dishing out on this episode, if you create the time and create the space and create the budget to develop your brand, it's going to pay you back, and many times exponentially. And depending on your service, you only need it to work a little bit to pay off a lot. Yeah. And if you can create the space and the ability to develop your brand, it's going to pay off for years down the road. And the confidence will come with action. And as Callie pointed out, she does a lot of things scared. That is a normal thing within business ownership. In the truly successful business owners and the ones who don't quite make it is the difference between their ability to go beyond that fear and do it anyways, and have confidence in at least the person that is telling them what to do. You know, if you have fear, at least lean on the person who has done what you're trying to do and is giving you very clear and concise steps, and just go follow it, because more than likely it's worked for them and it's worked for others that they have given guidance to. And so when we as coaches or mentors or successful people, when we see things work, we're excited to tell other people. And when those people actually take the action and see the similar results, it's a payment within itself. It's very rewarding to see people improve their lives. And if you're someone that is willing to help yourself and ask for help and take action on the help that is given, you're going to get the results. So I really encourage you guys to listen to this podcast a couple of times. There is a lot of information that Callie has laid out, a lot of tools that you can get momentum created very simply. You just have to decide it's worth it and convince yourself to take a little bit of action. And like always, if you guys have any questions or if you're looking for any more guidance, feel free to shoot us an email at support@cabinetstartup.com. And also feel free to check out Callie's website. I believe it's Honeycomb Create.
We're actually going to have a link in the show notes. I've got all that together.
honeycombcreates.com, and we'll have her information in the notes as well. She put together a page with all the resources she talked about. I believe that's honeycombcreates.com/tradesmen talks. Is that it?
Yep.
Awesome.
And you can go to our blog. Our blog will have that post as well. I do have one bonus tip if we have time.
Absolutely.
One bonus tip. Okay. So I mentioned Pinterest earlier, sort of buried the lead on that one and didn't follow up on my thought there, which tends to happen when I get passionate about really anything that has to do with marketing. So I'm just going to give you a couple quick stats that I think will probably blow your mind about Pinterest, and then why I think it's so important for service providers to be on the platform if you have a visual product. So there are 431 million monthly active users on Pinterest. Okay. 86% of those users also use Instagram, which means you have an opportunity to grow your Instagram if that's something that you've found difficulty in growing. 97% of the top searches are unbranded. That means people are going and not searching for specific brands. That's not what they're looking for. They want to find the most relevant search results for their query. 85% of pinners use it to plan new projects. Ding, ding, ding. This is perfect for service providers. They're going to plan things. They want to plan their next project. This is what I almost exclusively use Pinterest for, is to plan projects and look for service providers. And then 70% of users claim that Pinterest is where they go to find new products, ideas, or services that they can trust. Keyword, trust. So they are going to Pinterest. People are going to Pinterest in masses. 431 million people, 70% of that group is going to find people that they can trust, which means if you have a product that is highly visual, that people are literally deciding on how to work with you, on whether or not your product is top quality, you need to be on Pinterest. And you need to be using local keywords and keywords that are relevant to what people would be searching. Literally think about yourself. What would you be searching if you were looking for someone to paint your cabinets? Cabinets that are painted, or painted cabinets, best painted cabinets. But you're not searching specifically for your city. You're really just searching for the best painted cabinets. And if you have best painted cabinets in Orlando that pops up under one of those pins and it's this gorgeous photo, you invested in professional photography for this amazing project, and someone clicks on it and they go to your blog and they realize, oh, I want to hire this person. You've just gotten a client from Pinterest, or you've at least gotten someone who is interested in what you do from Pinterest. And that's just using it for its free tools. That's just using the free version of Pinterest. Just pin your work, totally free to do. You can even upgrade to a business profile, also free, so you can see the analytics. Highly recommend that. You can link your website on your profile. You have all the photos of your work on your profile. That is free traffic back to your website to be able to then leverage with Google ads, eventually Pinterest ads, whatever ads you want to do. Or if you have a great website, don't even have to do ads. They're just going to book you. So that is a really great free option. If you are into paid advertising, Pinterest is also great for that. Gone are the days that we trust Facebook to advertise.
Yeah.
I would recommend not doing that for a number of reasons that I won't get into, but I just wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend, if you're going to run ads, do it on Pinterest if it is relevant for you. Do it on Pinterest. It's very cheap. The algorithm works so that it serves it to the people who want to see it the most. If I were to spend my time on one platform, Pinterest would be the one. It's the most visual search engine ever, and it is super effective. And my final tip for Pinterest will be to use Tailwind. This is linked in my blog post about the tips. Tailwind is a scheduler for Pinterest. This is not free, but I would highly recommend investing in it. You can schedule all of your pins for as long as you want. They have a great tool where they will recycle your pins after a certain period of time, so you don't even have to do that. It is just such a great tool to leverage. They also have Tailwind for Instagram if you want to automate both. And they have great recommendations. So you can do it all within the platform: design, post, schedule, everything.
Awesome.
That's my bonus tip for anyone who is already kind of established and wants to get even more clients. Pinterest is it. That's, I think if I were to project anything marketing wise, trend wise, we're just going to see Pinterest continue to dominate whenever it comes to service-based businesses, and Instagram be harder to grow.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I really appreciate you laying that out.
Yeah.
I know that's going to be a platform that we really look into in the near future as well.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, guys. Wilson, you got something?
Yeah, I got a plan. No, I'm just excited.
Yeah, we could definitely do a lot with that platform. Well, I really appreciate your time, Callie. This was an awesome episode, one of my favorites. And again, guys, everyone who's listening, we're going to drop a link in the description that takes you to her page with all the tools that she talked about today. And if you guys have any questions, shoot us over an email at support@cabinetstartup.com. And we'll look forward to talking to you guys same place, same time next week. Have a great one.
All right, buddy.
Bye.